Hello, book lovers, and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins, and today I'm talking to author Elizabeth Walters. Elizabeth is the author of Memoirs of a Hospice Nurse. This book chronicles the unforgettable experiences that Nurse Elizabeth Walters encountered while providing hands-on bedside care to her dying patients and will show the compassion and love displayed by this hospice nurse for her patients and their families. Hello, Elizabeth. Welcome, and thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Well, thank you, Claire. It's a pleasure.
The blurb for Memoirs of a Hospice Nurse begins with, most people have been misinformed about hospice care and hospice nurses. What do most people think then about hospice care and nurses?
Well, Claire, there are several misconceptions out there about hospice care and hospice nurses, but I'll just touch on a few, the popular ones.
Go.
First, most people think that hospice is a place you go to, but the fact is 90% of hospice care is delivered in the comfort of the patient's home. Generally, patients are only admitted to inpatient hospice care if their symptoms can no longer be managed at home.
Oh.
Yeah. Um, Contrary to popular beliefs, in these inpatient settings, the hospice care nurses do not hasten their death, as is the misconception, but instead they provide 24-hour care to get these symptoms such as pain and restlessness under control so that the patient can return home.
Right, right. I didn't know that hospice care was done at home. That's interesting. That's it, because I always imagined misconception that the hospice care was in a hospice. Now I know.
Yes, can be done at home or in the assisted living or in the nursing home. Wherever they are, it can be done there.
So, a hospice is not a place, as you said, but a philosophy of care. So, what is this philosophy of care?
Well, it is a philosophy of caring that assists those nearing the end of life and in need of refuge, as it were. It
Mm.
is a system of caring designed to restore dignity and provide a sense of personal fulfillment to the dying patient. As part of the hospice philosophy of care, a hospice nurse focuses on the comfort and quality of life. They provide individualized care based on each person's unique needs.
Right. So, why did you decide to write a memoir of your experiences as a hospice nurse?
Well, I wanted people to come to know the different benefits that they could get from the hospice.
Mm.
I wanted to clear up the misconceptions about hospice care and hospice nurses. And I also wanted people to know that hospice care consists of a team, a highly professional team,
Mm.
headed up usually by a medical director who is an MD, a RN who usually manages the case, the RN registered nurse,
Mm-hmm.
the licensed practical nurse or LPN who usually does the bedside care, but she does visits too after the RN has initiated the initial plan of care. We have social workers who provide psychosocial support rather, chaplains providing spiritual support, volunteers, and even bereavement specialists because 13 months after the patient dies, these bereavement specialists will follow the family for 13 months, providing support, making sure that emotionally they're okay.
Right. So interesting. I never knew all of this. I'm glad you wrote the book. Can you give Book Talk Radio Club listeners an idea of what a day consists of in the life of a hospice nurse?
Certainly, Claire. The goal of hospice is to provide a peaceful end of life. A typical day varies, but usually includes managing the physical, emotional, and spiritual care of every patient, keeping them as comfortable as possible, which involves everything from educating the patient and their families on symptom management, giving a bed bath, changing a Foley catheter, giving a back rub, discussing and reviewing medication regimen accurately, adjusting them to improve comfort as necessary, as well as dealing with any crisis that may arise, crises such as a death pronouncement in the home.
Mm.
Usually in the United States, a registered nurse pronounces in the home setting The licensed practical nurse does not pronounce the patient.
Right, right. So you attend church and you obviously have deep religious and spiritual beliefs. How do you deal with the patient that is fearful of dying?
Uh, well, I first try to find out what is it that they fear about dying. That is it the unknown about death? Do they need to make peace with themselves, God, and man or woman? Then I gently ask what their beliefs are. If they have spiritual beliefs without being preachy, I have a Bible discussions with them as as the time allows and as they would allow about
Mm,
life after death, about resurrection hope, and I encourage them to see that God will restore their lives. And I encourage them to make peace with loved ones. If they are not religious, I help them to come to a place of acceptance that death is a sleep like state. And I reassure them that the hospice team will make sure that they're as comfortable as possible and will feel no pain at the time of death. And most importantly, Claire, that they will not die alone. There will always be someone at the bedside. And
mm.
I also encourage them to make peace with loved ones and, of course, themselves.
That's wonderful. That's absolutely wonderful. I mean, personally, I think it's a blessing and a privilege to be at the side of a person who, at the very last minute, is at peace with him or herself. I think that is when we see a part of God. Would you agree?
Yes, I do agree with you, Claire. For certainty, I have come to know from being at the bedside of patients who are dying that they will not pass away peacefully until he or she has made peace with himself, made
Mm,
peace with God, man or woman. It's called unfinished business.
yes.
Everything has to be copacetic.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what made you choose hospice nursing as opposed to any other branch of nursing?
Well, I had worked in the hospital and nursing home, but in these settings, I could not spend quality time with my patients
Right,
and could not render hands on care. I felt a void then.
right.
Hospice nursing filled that void because I could get to spend more quality time with them. I could get to, render the actual hands on care, change them, bathe them, comb their hair, sit with them, hold their hands. And that's what I wanted to do.
I think you're an amazing person.
Thank you, Claire.
I think nursing is I know nursing is a vocation rather than just a job. What kinds of traits are required to be a nurse, in particular a hospice nurse?
Yes, indeed. I do believe it is a calling, nursing, a
Mm,
purpose, as it were. A nurse has to be compassionate and strong. A hospice nurse has to be not only compassionate and strong, she has to be spiritual, dedicated, patient, passionate, and have staying power.
definitely. And I think would I be correct in saying you have to be a little bit emotionally detached so you don't get too involved?
Protect yourself mentally strong,
Yeah.
if I add, yes.
Yeah. I mean, my elderly father recently underwent hip revision surgery, and I know firsthand how hard it is on the patient, but it's equally hard on the family and close carers. Elizabeth, what advice would you give to family members who are carers, whether the patient is recovering and healing or at the end of their life?
I often encourage family members or caregivers or carers to take life one day at a time and to take some time out to care for themselves too.
Yeah, it's really important, isn't it?
Yes,
Definitely.
sure is.
At what point does a patient require hospice care, whether it's at home or in a hospice?
Oh, okay. When the disease process is no longer responding favorably to treatment and
Right.
there are no more curative measures that can be taken, usually the patient is first diagnosed by a physician with a terminal illness
Yeah.
and is given usually less than 6 months to live if the disease process follows the typical path. So once that has been determined by the MD, by their attending physician that the treatment is not responding, the disease is, not responding to treatment,
Mm.
then it's time to seek hospice care.
You're receiving some great reviews for Memoirs of a Hospital Nurse, including brilliant, nurse or not. I highly recommend this book as a must read for everyone. And excellent book, well written and truly inspiring as it comes from the heart. Tell me, Elizabeth, what was the best moment for you, the first sale or the first review, and why?
Well, I'll tell you the first review, and I'll tell you why. You see, Claire, the review helped me to gauge if the book had made an impact on the reader. People lead very busy lives in today's world, as you know.
Mm,
When someone takes time out to leave a review, it tells me that it resonated with them, that
yes.
they were moved to tell others about it. When someone likes your work enough to tell others about it, that is a good sign that others will want to buy and read this book too.
Absolutely. So, where can Book Talk Radio Club's listeners purchase Memoirs of a Hospice Nurse?
At www.amazon.com and also at www.barnesandnobles.com.
Fantastic. All right, well, thank you, Elizabeth. That was great. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future. And thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Claire. My pleasure.
Bye now.
Bye now.